Sony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant by request. Vikram, the trailer. It's a Indian actioner. Kind of think a gangster movie. I don't quite totally get it, but I kind of like it. Before we get into it, quick couple announcements. First, the live stream today will be later this evening. I'm not sure when. I got some family stuff to take care of. Nothing unhappy. It's just getting together and won't be around until later. Number two, I'm not turning this into the American guy who looks at Indian movies all the time, but I will take requests if your requests are current movies, trailers, looking for interesting screenwriting things to talk about. So I'm happy to do that. And number three, probably next week, assuming I have enough time to prepare, I might do the live stream on Sunday. I'm thinking we should do maybe Indian cinema versus American cinema kind of thing. Now I don't know so much about it that I would be an expert on the Indian part, but I think I can handle my own in the American part, so that could be kind of fun. So for all my new Indian subscribers, look for that, and check back later today for the live stream. All right, now Vikram. Vikram is the main character. I'm not sure what his deal is. I want to say he's a gangster. But again, Indian mythology looms large because you got the lion, the tiger, and the leopard. So I think they're gangsters, but it doesn't and the deer will run for its life. I'm not sure. There's a lot of this going on with guys dropping from the ceiling. I'm not sure if they're killing people or what. There's mentions of a revolution. One man's terrorist is another man's, revolutionary. I'm not sure what they are exactly, but it may be part vigilante, because then there's this line about rules and regulation, and how you're always going to break them. So I think it's gangsters versus cops. I think, maybe the story of a corrupt government and guys who just take the law into their own hands. And I think Vikram is the good guy. And so maybe all these guys are gangsters. But I'm not totally sure. And you've got, interesting, in the credits, you've got guns as some of the letters. And here he is. Two-fisted it. The action looks really good and not totally over the top crazy like we saw in some of the other ones, but looks fairly realistic. I think there's a couple of moments where it gets a little crazy that they're not showing us, but it looks fairly realistic gunplay. Not sure why they're showing that. And here he is outdrawing this dude and shooting him. But then you've got this sort of revolutionary aspect where he's arming the local populace, which I kind of like. You better start running. So it's a bit westerny in its flavor. And you've got various characters. I'm not sure what their names are, but I kind of know their nicknames because of the lion, the tiger, and the leopard. See, there's the gun. But it looks good. Looks good. Once upon a time, there lived a ghost, and his name was Vikram. So, I like it. I mean, it looks like a tough guy movie, written and directed by Lakosh Kanagaraj. Okay. Oh, we got more credits. I don't know if I could read these. So we know who wrote and directed it. See, only one executive producer. Yesterday I looked at a movie, had 23 of them. They have dialogue writers. Look at this. Now that's a new credit. Dialogue writers Rathna Kumar, Lokesh Kanagaraj. Garage. I think I'm getting that. Oh, and Diamond. Oh no, that's a different one. I think that's a different credit. Pro. I think maybe that's short for producer. Um, so yeah, looks cool. Looks cool. Maybe someone out there can clarify what I suspect this is. So what I suspect is Vikram is an ex-cop or soldier, and he's fighting against the corrupt government and gangsters in his region, whatever region of India this is. So the American equivalent would be something like, somebody in New York City, in corrupt New York City in the 70s or now, taking the law into their own hands and cleaning up their neighborhood from the gangsters and the corrupt cops there. Only, I'm not sure how the law enforcement works in India. I assume there's a lot of crossover with the military. So we have a very big separation of that in America. Maybe not so much there. So it's a corruption on a local, province, and federal level, and then so he cleans up the streets from these corrupt people who are up to no good. Now I'm not seeing what their up to no good is, other than maybe they just run the place. But the first act would be Vikram, probably, in his early days, or maybe getting out of jail, or maybe coming back home, kind of thing. Everything's a mess. Everything's a mess. And then there's an incident which sets him off. This is too much. I'm going to do something about it. So he sets out to do something about it, and the second act is, the various gangsters starting to go, who's this guy Vikram? Why is he bothering us? Take care of him. And then they try to, and it doesn't work, and he realizes he needs help. So, and other people join up with him, and he gets some guns, and then, it escalates and escalates, and then in the third act, there's a big fight where Vikram is like on the back of a Jeep with a giant machine gun, and there's like a big row of guys, and they're just, things are exploding, which is mildly unrealistic, but not too unrealistic. So it's in a realm closer to less a hyper reality, more reality from what I saw in the trailer. Now they may be cutting out some of the hyper reality parts in order to appeal to a wider audience, but that's fine. I don't mind too much of a hyper reality unless the movie's supposed to be serious or very epic, as we saw in RRR. I think if you're trying to pass this off as a serious gangster, if you're trying to compare it to a movie like an American equivalent would be Extraction, right, with Chris Hemsworth, which takes place in India, and it was very clear, who the bad guys were. They were clearly Indian gangsters, and they had a very organized crime sort of rollout of the bad guys. And there was lots of shooting in that too. This is got the trappings of that, but the interesting thing is Indian filmmakers seem to be more interested in the not the mythology, but like the metaphors to the mythology, right? So this is like the third or fourth movie I've seen where it's all about, these animal imageries which are part of Indian mythology, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I haven't seen one yet that was just like that didn't have that. So it'll be interesting to see. Is that something? I guess it's throughout Indian cinema. Maybe that's something that draws in everybody in India, since it's a shared experience. So I wouldn't blame Indian filmmakers for putting that in, if that's the case. It sounds like that could be the case. But I would like to see I would like to see a movie in India that would be less metaphorical. You know, be a little more gritty. This is kind of close to that, so I kind of like it. Maybe it's just the trailer throwing that stuff in. Um, but you know, the gunplay looks cool. The gunplay looks cool. So, I mean, for me, this is a movie that would entertain me, even if I didn't understand what the hell these guys were doing. I kind of understand it. Obviously, I would have to watch the movie to get a better grasp of it. You better start running. Um, you know, I I guess the for me as an American, I can't see. You know, no one explains to me in these movies how law enforcement works or the government works in India when it's needed for anyone outside of India. And I get why you might not explain it to an Indian audience, but there are ways of explaining it in a subtle way, just a couple of lines that would get it across. And maybe this movie has it, but it's not in the trailer. So something like one of the characters saying, "Oh, we can't, we can't cross the province border, or else we'll be searched by, whatever the authorities are called there." I'm not sure. I don't think are they called police in India? Or are they called something else? So just throwing a few lines out like that can sound realistic to an Indian audience who already knows it, but it clues in a more international audience who, I'm not sure what you guys are doing over there. Like, I'm not sure how everything works over in India. Like, every movie I see, there's like big, wide open spaces. It's very dusty. And you guys like Jeeps, apparently. There's a lot of Jeeps. And, there's a lot of open space, seemingly, at least in the films. And then there are a lot of people in certain places. So, I think it would be interesting to see an Indian filmmaker specifically approach his movie to not only appeal to an Indian audience, which I get, he'd have to. He's got investors to worry about, but also to try to broaden it just a little bit. So, okay, like our plan is we're going to show it to the Indian audience, but we're trying to also get American distribution too. But I understand why probably American distribution isn't that important for an Indian film, because when you think about it, there are way more people in India. And so by comparison, the American distribution would be much smaller. And I'm not sure, how the money would work there, because, American film distribution is pretty ruthless, and I'm sure they would put the screws to an Indian film that was trying to break into that market. Besides not maybe, well, I mean, you've got English subtitles, so there's that. A lot of this stuff seemingly is ending up on Netflix. They seem to be really big on buying foreign films from everywhere, the good ones. So if this one's on Netflix, it's probably pretty good. Pretty much any foreign film I've seen on Netflix, I don't think I've seen a really bad one yet. They've been really good. Now, there's not a lot of them. And I think that's because Netflix, right now has the inside track on that. I'm not seeing that in Hulu and some of the other platforms. I'm not seeing a lot of foreign films there. And definitely not at like Paramount or Disney Plus or any of those places, because they're just trying to promote their own films. And they should be, if there's any audience they should be trying to get, it should be you guys in India, because that's a hell of an audience, and a hell of a lot bigger than China. Especially on the streaming platforms, which I guess explains why Disney Plus tried but failed with Ms. Marvel. And I'd be very interested to see. Maybe we'll talk about this on a live stream, about Indian cinema. I'd be very interested to hear people's comments on from India what they think of Ms. Marvel, or if they've seen it, or if it's even a thing over there. Anyhow, so Vikram looks pretty gangster. Looks like fun. It doesn't look too dark, you know. It looks about the level. See, right here, I think something happens that's kind of wacky. I think he smashes his whole face, but like if you throw that in really quick, I think it could work. But I definitely think this is some kind of gangster film, you know, which probably will have a. It's not going to have a super dark ending, but it's probably going to be like, not a happy ending, but kind of a tough guy ending. Like either he walks away from an explosion, kind of thing, or some guys die, but not all the guys, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I would say this. So I'll keep an eye out. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Hope to see you at the live stream later this evening. And if not, we'll see you. Oh, gotta find my button here. We'll see you in the next one.